Have you ever opened your fridge, seen an expired date, and immediately thrown the food away? Well, let me tell you, those expiration dates aren't what they seem. In this video, we're diving into the truth behind food labels, how they lead to tons of unnecessary waste, and what you can actually trust when it comes to your food. Stick around, and you'll learn how to save money, stop wasting perfectly good food, and maybe even feel a little rebellious against those misleading labels. Are you tired of tossing out good food just because of some arbitrary date? Let's find out what's really going on. The amount of food we waste is pretty insane. In the US alone, a whopping 37% of food waste comes straight from our homes. Think about it, almost 4 out of 10 items we buy end up in the trash. And the craziest part? About 20% of that waste happens just because people don't understand the labels on the packaging. It's not just about not knowing, it's about a system that's confusing on purpose, and we're the ones paying for it, literally. We're tossing out perfectly good food, and that means wasting money and resources too. Imagine all the energy, water, and effort it took to get that food onto your plate, just for it to end up in the garbage. This is why understanding food labels is so important. If we can crack the code, we could save money, cut back on waste, and do a huge favor for the planet. Here's the thing about expiration dates, they're not always telling you the truth. Most of the time, those dates are about peak freshness, not about safety. Just because the label says, best by, or sell by, doesn't mean your food magically goes bad after that day. It just means it might not be at its absolute best, but that doesn't mean it's not safe to eat. We've been conditioned to treat those dates as hard deadlines, but they're more like suggestions for when your food will taste the best. The truth is, a lot of expired food is still totally fine to eat, especially if it's canned, dried, or frozen. By throwing away things that are still good, we're buying into a system that benefits manufacturers more than us. They want us to buy more often. So, the next time you see that expiration date, take a moment to think, is it actually unsafe, or is it just not at its prime anymore? Trust your senses, they're often better judges than a printed date. Back in the day, people didn't have best by or sell by dates to guide them. Before the 20th century, folks just used their senses, sight, smell, and touch, to decide if food was still good. It was simple, if it looked, smelled, and felt okay, it was good to eat. Fast forward to the 1970s, and suddenly, supermarkets started using open dating on products. These dates weren't about safety, they were mostly about telling stores and customers when the food was at its freshest. The thing is, this system got out of hand. What started as a helpful guideline turned into a confusing mess. People began to see these dates as strict deadlines, and food companies didn't exactly try to correct that perception. Why? Because if people throw food away sooner, they'll buy more. The idea of freshness got mixed up with safety, and here we are today, staring at a date and feeling unsure whether we should toss something or keep it. When it comes to food safety, not all foods are created equal. Sure, some things, like canned goods, dried pasta, or even frozen veggies, are usually fine well after their printed date. These items are pretty resilient and don't spoil easily, which means that throwing them away just because of an expiration date is often unnecessary. On the other hand, foods like raw meat, pre-made salads, and unpasteurized dairy can become risky after a certain point. These products are more prone to bacterial growth, and ignoring the date here can have real consequences. But even with these riskier items, it's still important to use your senses. If your milk smells sour, it's probably time to say goodbye. If meat has a funky odor or a strange color, better not take the chance. Labels give us a rough idea of timing, but your eyes and nose are way better at telling you when something's actually gone bad. So, when dealing with food safety, it's all about balance, knowing what's truly unsafe and trusting your instincts on what's still good to eat. The confusion around food labels is a huge part of why we waste so much food. Most consumers, and even some stores, misinterpret what those dates actually mean. They see a date that says, "Best By," and assume it's a hard deadline, that after that day, the food magically turns dangerous. But that's just not true. This misunderstanding leads to millions of pounds of perfectly edible food being thrown away each year. It's a massive waste of money, resources, and effort. Think about it, every time we toss out good food, we're wasting not just the item itself, but all the energy that went into producing, transporting, and storing it. This isn't just bad for our wallets, but also for the planet. If we can clear up this confusion and educate ourselves on what these dates really mean, we could seriously cut down on food waste. It's about breaking the habit of blindly following labels and instead trusting our senses and using common sense. So, what can we actually do about all this confusion and waste? Experts are calling for a more standardized labeling system, something that makes sense to everyone. Imagine if every product just used two types of labels: "Best if used by," for freshness, and "Used by," for safety. It would make things a whole lot clearer and help people know when food is still safe versus when it's just not as tasty. This small change could make a huge impact on reducing the amount of food we throw away. Another suggestion is to get rid of dates on fresh produce altogether. Why do we need a label on a bunch of bananas or a bag of apples? They're going to show you when they're ready and when they're not. Plus, encouraging grocery stores to donate unsold but still good food to those in need could turn potential waste into something really positive. These simple changes could make a big difference in fighting food waste, both in our homes and in our communities. When it comes to fighting food waste, the best place to start is at home. The simplest way to reduce waste is to actually use the food you buy. Instead of relying solely on printed dates, trust your senses, look at the color, give it a sniff, and if it smells good, give it a small taste. Your eyes, nose, and even your taste buds can be better judges of food quality than a random date on the package. We've gotten too used to throwing things out just because they expired, but that mindset needs to change. Also, planning meals can be a game changer. If you know what you're cooking and when, you're way less likely to end up with a fridge full of mystery items that you forgot to use. And when you do have leftovers or produce that's starting to look sad, get creative. Smoothies, soups, and casseroles are great for using up those ingredients before they go bad. Reducing food waste is not just about saving money, it's about respecting the resources we have and making a positive impact, one meal at a time. Before we wrap up, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. It really helps us create more content that can make a difference in your everyday life. And speaking of making a difference, check out our next video on why escaping poverty feels impossible. In this video, we break down the real challenges that keep people stuck in poverty and explore the barriers that make it so hard to get ahead, plus, what can be done to overcome them.